Hi there. This is Kat, and thank you for joining my Stand Out and Grow live podcast today. I have a very cool guest today that I think that you will thoroughly enjoy. And if you do miss this live podcast now, it will live, and we also will have it on the Stand Out and Grow podcast channel as well, so that you can reference it. So I'm happy to have Susan Harrow. Harrow. Hopefully, I'm not butchering her last name. On today, she is a media coach and marketing strategist. She wants to talk to you today about letting go of imposter syndrome, which I feel like such a great topic. This topic will never go away. We always need to talk about it because as we move and evolve through our business and our life, we're always questioning our own authority, our own ability, and whether we are an expert or a thought leader, right? So that would be the imposter syndrome. So let me bring out Susan because I am super excited to have her on. Hi, Susan.
So excited to be here. And I'm happy that you said that we all experience this because sometimes people feel like they're all alone in this, but it is something that we all, especially the ambitious, feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, I think for a long time during COVID, I used to hear the imposter syndrome name and dialogue a lot. And I think probably more so then because we were all isolated. We were probably all using digital media to get our voice out there. And I think the biggest thing for people is having the confidence or feeling like they're an imposter and they're not really the expert, right?
It's so widespread. There are actually some studies that show it's 95% of us. The most standard ones shows 75%, and that it's. I know we as women think that we have it more, and I think the reason why we think that we have it more is because men often take action in spite of imposter syndrome,
Yep.
or they feel it in a different way. Like they're worried more about being disrespected. Women are worried more about being liked, right, and accepted. So men typically, we can take a lesson from them in like, okay, even if you feel this way, still move forward. And one way to do that is to set a goal in the future. Like you set something in the future that you know, a TED talk or a
Yeah.
media appearance or whatever it is that you have to. I used to do this all the time when I taught at the Learning Annex. I would set the class and then I would prep it.
Mhm.
Right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Nope. That makes sense. So, before we dive deep into this conversation, can you give my audience a little background about you and how you came about to where you are today?
So I majored in Shakespeare and as an English major, which is not so practical, but I have a background in startups. And
Okay.
so, yeah, so I worked at a couple of startups. And then I worked with right now, which is something really popular, is that I worked with smart buildings. Like right now, we're all talking about how to green buildings. So I
Mm.
was selling those systems, $100,000 systems plus in the Silicon Valley for that. But I really have married my sales experience with my English background when I started off as a publicist. So I was first booking people in the media. And then what I found when I was booking people is I could get them these great placements in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, on Larry King Live, Oprah, etc. And sometimes what would happen is a great big nothing. And so I started looking at what was happening. And what I saw was it was them. It was what they were saying or who they were. Because what we're looking at first is your presence, right? Like that's what
Yep.
we're bringing into first. And so I started working with my clients on their presence and what they said and how they said it and how they were connecting with both the audience and the media, because you have to connect with both. You have to give the media what they want, but also how do you say the things that are going to drive business? It's going to grow your reputation and your ROI. So I started focusing on that. And then I moved completely into the media training aspect because I loved
Okay.
it so much. Yeah.
Yeah, and that totally makes sense, and I get it. Okay, so I had another question when we first were talking about imposter syndrome, and you talked about how it's applicable to both male and female.
Yeah.
Is the whole term, you know, I just lost it here. What was it? Fake it till you make it. Is that
I
part of? Is
I don't
that
believe
part
in
of
that.
the
No, I don't believe in fake it till you make it, and I'll tell you why. There's a different way that you can do it, and it's called embodiment, and it's
Okay.
called practice, and it's called competence leads to confidence. So
Yep.
you actually have to start doing it. I was just media training a 16-year-old today who's about to get the Billie Jean King Leadership Award, and he's going to be on the ESPYs. And I
Nice.
said, we're practicing on Zoom. It was very quick. We're practicing on Zoom. I said, but I want you to practice standing up and sitting down because he didn't know how he was going to be interviewed. You
Yep.
want to get the feeling in your body. And then when we were crafting what he was going to say, he had the revelation. He goes, oh my God, they had given him 3 questions. He goes, I thought I had to answer these questions. I'm like, no, you don't have to answer those questions. We're going to answer the questions with the information that you want your audience to know
Yeah.
and that they need to know. So what we wanted to touch on, and in any media appearance, we want to touch on how do you want to grow your business? Like what kind of, we wanted to give a very specific example. So his goal was to fill lockers with used sports equipment for the underserved community, including neurodiverse, as well as girls and people in like East Palo Alto, because he's near the Silicon Valley, right? And so we were talking about, well, we want to give examples of that. We want to include a quote, like how widespread is this? What's the importance of sports? And we also want to include the fact that he wants more money and more sponsors to grow his nonprofit. So we created in those answers, while still answering the question and honoring Billie Jean King,
Yeah.
we created those answers that will drive business and grow his nonprofit in there. And
Okay.
that's sometimes what people forget. They just want to be lively and entertaining, and they forget that the purpose is to have people engage with you on whatever level you're looking for,
Yeah.
free to fee. Yeah.
Well, and just so that you know, Susan, I was alluding to more of the fact that some people who fake it before they make it set themselves up for imposter syndrome because they're
Mm,
not learning the business, right? They're not learning the strategies and the things that they
yeah.
need to know in order to be that thought leader or expert or whatever it is that they're trying to be, right? Thought.
Yeah, and with the fake it till they make it, so the alternative to that is really setting yourself up for like future pacing yourself. Who do I want to become? And then you want to sort of reverse engineer that. Like,
Yeah.
and really look every day. I think it's an everyday moment by moment process. So it's not like just write your goals once and forget about them or read them every day. It's really about who do you want to be? And this started, by the way, with the Buddha. The Buddha
Okay.
actually was saying, like, who do you want to become? So this is like an ancient thing to be able to live into our own expectations, not other people's expectations. But am I every day being a little bit better or responding in some way? And part of that's self-reflection, right? Like
Okay.
part of it is self-awareness and self-reflection and going through those different scenarios. Even at the end of the day, I always review, like I'll be reviewing this podcast. What did I do well? What could I have done better? Where did I miss an opportunity? Right. So I
Yep.
can learn for the next time. So it's really about that practice and iteration.
Yeah. Yeah. Josie, I love to comment. I love that line. Competence leads to confidence. So there you go.
And that's statistically backed, Josie, as well. So that's research based,
Yeah.
that competence leads to confidence. So sometimes we're always thinking that confidence comes first, but it's actually the reverse. We keep
Yeah.
doing the thing and then we're like, hey, I can do it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Makes sense to me. Okay. So you mentioned that there's 3 ways people of all genders, ethnicities, you know what I'm saying,
Ethnicities. Yes.
and sensibilities can let go of imposter
Yeah.
syndrome. So, what are the 3 ways you want to share with us?
So the first way is that future pacing. It's that who do you want to become? And then really reflecting on that daily. And number 2 is micromanaging your mind. And what I mean by that is if you're in a situation where you feel jealousy come up or you're triggered in some way, is to acknowledge that thought, but then let it go. And then think about what great thing is that you're admiring about that person. Because when you can shift that thinking in the moment, we actually
Mhm.
change our energy and we become a more positive energy. If we're in jealousy, we have a bad energy, right? Not bad, but we have a lower, let's call it a lower energy. And when we're in the energy of complimenting and and really admiring another person,
Yep.
that automatically raises us internally. This is very subtle, but it's actually really felt. It's the felt experience that we have. And that really on the energetic level is where most of the work takes place. The other thing, the learning your lines, so to speak, is more about technique and
Okay.
and managing the techniques. So that's number 2. And then number 3 is really about this is another managing your mind kind of thing, but it's aphorisms don't this is research based as well. Aphorisms don't work because we don't believe them. So we have to create a bridge into those aphorisms. So one way to do that is not to say, I'm so great, I'm so fabulous, I'm going to be so confident, I'm not nervous, when you are, but to ask a question. Instead of saying it as a statement, you can actually say, I wonder how I can feel so good in my own skin and really feel relaxed and alive in this particular interaction. And that bridge saying, how can I, or I don't know how, because we
Yep.
don't know how. If we knew, we went. So either I don't know how, or how can I, sort of opens our mind and the possibility to live into that future self, so to speak, too.
Okay. That's very good things for people to think about, especially if you're trying to let go of that imposter syndrome. And I'm writing as many
Well,
notes
I
in my
see that. I'm
calendar.
like, I don't know how you're writing and
I am.
speaking.
I'm trying to put
That's such a great skill. I love it.
that way people can keep up.
Yeah.
Okay. Why you need a content management strategy for any media appearances, podcast, or presentation? How can that bypass imposter syndrome?
So one of the things that when you plan, prepare, and practice, you're free to be spontaneous. But
Yep.
the other scientific part about that is that when you get your messaging ingrained into your brain, then you don't have the danger of cortisol zooming up and stopping that, because cortisol blocks short-term memory. So
Okay.
we actually want to practice what those messages are, and in real life, like in front of the camera, in front of Zoom like this, or whatever the situation is. You want to, if you're doing a TED talk, you want to get up on a stage,
Yep.
and actually do it. So when you're doing camera, it's really good to get the feel of the camera in front of you. So start to practice those things in the situation. And then you want a messaging strategy that really connects with the audience, what we were talking about a little bit before. So are you saying the kinds of things that are going to drive interest in sales,
Yep.
but and give real value to the audience? So maybe you want some advice, because the media is always looking for advice. What do you know that we don't know, that my audience doesn't know? How can you enlighten and educate, entertain them? You want to have like success stories or personal stories. Now we really want to know you. So
Yep.
you want to have a personal story. So when I was talking about the Rashan Patel, who I was
Mhm.
just media training, I'm like, we want a story about like how you went from being super shy to how basketball and sports allowed you to grow yourself and have built-in friends in a team. We want to
Right.
know that personal story, and everybody's going to ask you that thing. Why do you do what you do? Why did you write that book? Why did you give that TED talk? So that's the first question that you want to answer in a very personalized way. We have had such a short period of time. I didn't tell you my signature story, but you might have more than one or 3 of
Right.
those stories of why you do, and they need to be expandable and collapsible depending on the amount of time that you have in the media. In a
Okay.
TV show and the show like yours, it's more like the shortest answer.
Right. Right. Because they're on a time crunch, so they have an
Yeah.
agenda and things set in place, and then
Well, typically on a TV talk show, they're typically 4 minutes, and you have 2 of them, so it's back and forth. So it's
yep.
not 2 continuous minutes, and that's just not a lot. That's not a very long time. So we're
Right.
always thinking about ways to shortcut it. So TV, I always want my clients to have props and
Hmm.
things that will shortcut a conversation, physical objects, right? Because it's a physical medium. And then the other thing is that we would want to have any kind of 1, 2, 3, like you led me to, because then it's a really easy way to keep on track. So if
Yeah.
you're super nervous, you can remember those 3 points because you will be nervous.
Right.
And then you also want to have B-roll, which is background footage,
Yeah.
which is any kind of interesting photographs or video or print in the background. So that helps tell the story that you want to tell.
Okay. And then what types of businesses and what types of things are you helping people with?
So I'm in the socially conscious area, the social entrepreneurs. So I'm
Yep.
working with women founders and people who are like innovators and on the edge, or anyone who has a business, book, product, service, or cause that's launching. But really, I'm really looking for the kind of people that I mostly work with are people who are really doing something great in the world. But that can also be a piece of chocolate, right, or
Yep.
something
Yep.
delicious,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And so I work with them from everything. Some people don't necessarily want to become thought leaders. Some people are on a book tour, for example, and they
Yep.
want to promote their book, but they might be promoting a course because they're
Gotcha.
not going to be making money on the book, right? They're promoting courses and speaking engagements. So that's all integrated into the pattern, right? So you're not focused on that. You're focused on the information in the book or what's going to give value to the audience.
Yeah.
So now I've forgotten the question.
I'm what types of people are you helping with the different campaigns, that you
Yeah.
have? Because
So,
you had mentioned TED Talk. Do you help people prepare for TED Talks?
that's so fascinating that you asked that because I end up helping people with TED Talks. I usually recommend they get a TED coach, but
Yep.
then I'm helping them also because TED coaches usually don't talk about this. How do you use the stage? How do you
Yep.
engage with the audience? I'm showing them how to do all of that physically as well, to use your whole physicality. So I'm a black belt in Aikido and former teaching tennis pro. So I really want to be able to have that embodied and physical too. So how do you use the stage? How do you use all of your body in the area that you have? Right.
Mhm.
And also, is that TED talk like in the right order? Is it engaging? Because oftentimes it's not going to be, sometimes with people that I've worked with, it's not quite on it, right? So
Mhm.
we experiment, we play, we practice, we do maybe some things that are out of character or uncomfortable to get to the essence of the thing.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're always looking for, the essence of the thing. So TED Talks, book tours, launching a product, becoming a thought leader. So I have a lot of clients who want to become thought leaders. One of my clients I prepped for recently for the Wall Street Journal, who's in the tech sector, right?
Okay.
Like because of what's going on in tech, it's really topical, right? So I'm always looking for people who are topical now. I mean, we're always looking for the intersection between the media and your topic, right?
Yeah.
Like and your expertise. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, because I can think of a lot of situations, and a lot of times when I have people that are viewing the podcast, they're always thinking in the back of my head, well, that's not for me. So I'm trying to get you to relate to some of the people and some of the things. I would imagine if this was their first keynote, do you help with that? Keynote speakers?
Yeah, that's not my real zone of genius is media.
Okay.
So oftentimes what happens is, like, one of my clients was speaking at what's the Santa Cruz one called, that big stage in Santa Cruz. It's skipping anyway. It's so I prepped her for that, and
Yeah.
she came back and said, but we were doing media training, and she's like, well, I've got to
Yeah.
give this talk. And I asked her to hire a coach for that, and she wouldn't. So I said, okay. So we wanted to talk about how she was going to grow her business of the future, because she was moving out of one-to-one. She was a medical doctor. So she was moving out of her practice into more speaking. And I said, so we want to talk more about that. And what she said after she was on that stage, she's like, I was the only one there who was media coached. I could tell. And then at the end, she was bombarded with people who wanted to engage with her and who wanted to, hire her for speaking,
Yeah.
but also wanted to she now has like a facility that does like all kinds of biohacking. So people fly in from all over the world to do this kind of future, how you maintain your health and wellness and well-being. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So, can you give us a flavor of some people you have helped?
Oh gosh, yes. So everyone from rock stars to um, uh, contestants on what is it called, the Iron Chef.
Yeah.
So some of my clients, rock stars like Bob Marley's son,
Mhm.
and but I also work with, entrepreneurs,
Yep.
authors, and speakers who are regular. I worked with the Ganja Guru several times. He was on a PBS special, about this was before cannabis sort of became the
Yep.
thing that it is today. So really, I love to work with, it's anything that I'm fascinated with,
Mhm.
that people have. So if I'm not fascinated with them and I don't love it, but I know that they're media savvy and media ready, I will refer them to someone else. But I have to love it and be interested in it. So I've worked on snacks and, let's see, some of my latest ones are the fractional recruiting firms. So
Okay.
women founders. So it really, people often ask me, well, do you have experience in my genre?
Right.
And I say that doesn't matter, and it's good if I don't, because so a lot of medical doctors and wellness, right? It's good if I don't, because you have to be able to speak to me and you have to be able to speak to the public and have them understand it. So it doesn't actually matter. So it's, to me, it's, are you media worthy, and can I help you, and do you have something that's going to help a lot of great people out there?
Yeah. So are you still doing the PR business, or are you
I
just the
don't do the media placements. I work with the PR firms and the people who have marketing, internal marketing departments, or their VAs doing it. I do the media training. So I partner with PR firms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if there are PR firms out there that want their client to be media trained, that would
Yep.
be a really great match. And I refer people to PR firms so they can get booked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I would imagine someone that would be a question for somebody who's tuning in, is whether you're full service, or if this is, that part of the training, and you just clear the air. So that's great.
Yeah,
That's
the
awesome.
media training part, but I also do a lot of strategic marketing, strategic planning. Like one of my clients now, he is in the construction industry, so he's got a $30 million construction industry company, but
Yep.
he has written a children's book. Ordinarily, I wouldn't take on a children's book, but because this children's book is about the crisis in the construction industry,
Yep.
we're moving, and because we're actually changing the perception from being dirty and disrespected to noble and needed. That is something that we're working on together to, and that would go in several stages. One, we're pitching the trades, right? Then
Yep.
the consumer, direct to consumer, and then people who would be interested in buying the book. So there's 3 different marketplaces for that. And
Okay.
then I'm working with them on creating their whole marketing strategy behind the scenes, because they're not set up yet on the internet, because they're businesses that are more brick and mortar,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So there's a learning curve to marketing, on the internet. So that's what I'm working with them on too.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to touch on your book, because I love, love, love the title. It's Sell Yourself Without Selling Your Soul. Can you give us some insight into your book? Is it still available? Can people still get it?
It's still a bit, what I've done is I've actually turned that book into a course called The Zen of Fame, Your Genius Gone Viral. And the first part of the course, you learn your messaging, because most people do things back afterwards. They contact the media and then have an, oh, you know what moment when the media calls. So the messaging comes first, then it's setting up your systems, like what I was talking about with the construction company. You have to make sure that when people arrive at your website, PR pushes people to your door, but you need to open it and usher them through
Right.
whatever that process is, from free to fee, right? And then the last part is the 25-day marketing campaign that suits your style and energy. Because I wrote the book Cat because people kept coming to me. They thought they were bragging, begging, or whoring to get publicity. And I said, it doesn't need to be so. You can be the true you and still get what you want. And that's what the whole book is based on.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great. I love that, because a lot of times people feel like they have to go over the top to sell,
Yes.
when at the end of the day, and I try to coach and train people, that people buy from people. They're not buying what you're schlepping. They're buying because they like you. They connected with you. Something human happened,
Yes, I love that. Something human. It is human, and it really boils down to that.
Yeah.
It really is, and I'm loving the show Nashville. I know it's a little older now. I don't know if you've watched it,
Yep.
but it's so great because I love the star, Raina James, and how it's contrasted to, Juliet,
Yep.
right? And Raina James is true to herself and true to her music, and that is her inner muse. That is something that is always driving her forward, is these are my songs. This is how I'm growing. These are the new songs that I'm creating, and how she works all those relationships to try to get the best for everyone. And I think that's the key thing is like, how can when you ask yourself, like, what is my highest good? How can I serve? And that
Mhm.
goes with like, are the clients a good match? I'm always just looking for, are we a match? Is this going to serve both of us? And that's what I love about Raina James is that she negotiates these really hard relationships in a dog eat dog world, right? Like, and where she's shuffled to the side and she manages to negotiate them. And I think it's like so admirable by staying true to herself and bottom
Oh,
line.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, are there certain things a person feels when they suspect they have imposter syndrome? Is there a certain feeling or a certain way that they're like seeing themselves?
I did a workshop once and this woman said, they said, what's your power animal? And
Mhm.
she said, um, it's a bear. She said, but I feel like I'm a little brown mouse.
Got you.
And she was. She was the
Mhm.
brown mouse. So she wanted to be the bear. But if we feel like we're a little brown mouse and we're aspiring to be a bear, I mean, first we have to ask, is that true to who I am? Like, is it pressure to be an extrovert if you're an introvert?
Yep.
Or, um, is that who you are? So it's really about keeping your quirks and developing those into the unique you. That's the most important thing. So it's trying to find those points that are special
Right.
about you. And sometimes I love when people, are a little quirky or they talk in a different way. I'm not going to smooth that out of them,
Yep. Yep.
you
Yep.
know.
And that makes total sense. I think another thing probably someone feels is like you hit on before, the lack of confidence. They know it, but they feel like they're not as confident about it, you know?
But the thing is, and that's where daily practices come in.
Mhm.
So I do a lot of different daily practices because I'm a very anxious person. Even coming on this podcast, I'm like, my sweetie's like, have something to eat. I'm like, I can't eat. I'm going to eat after, but I can't eat before.
Yeah.
And that's just part of my nature. It's accepting that even
Mm.
though I do podcasts and do speaking, I'm a trained extrovert. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah. And so I use a lot of the techniques that I've used on myself and that come from martial arts and training in tennis and all of that, that help you calm down
Yep.
and help you relax. And part of these daily practices might be something as simple as breathing.
Yep.
Doing the box breathing, the in for 4, hold for 4, and out for 4, right? Because if you do that even for 5 minutes, you're going to change your neurology. You're going to calm down.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So, but start to practice that now. There's a book that I haven't. I just heard an interview of. I think it's called Built to Move. And one of the things that I love that they said it's how to maintain your mobility as you age and in any age. And one of the things that they did is integrate movement into what you're already doing. So, like for example, when I'm walking, I walk every day. I do breathing exercises
Okay.
because I'm doing two things at once. So
Yep.
I do the breathing and I'm trying to expand my breathing and like expand it like to hold my breath underwater too. So I do all of that to expand my lung capacity. I also do like a Buddhist prayer, which is very simple. That it's not really. Some people have tried to actually smooth out the Buddhism of it, but it's like, may I be filled with loving kindness, may I be well, may I be peaceful entities, may I be happy. May everyone be filled with loving kindness. May they be well. May they be peaceful entities. May they be happy. So I do that every single day, pretty much, because it's putting the goodwill out into the world of how I want to feel myself, but also so I do it for myself and I do it for others. Sometimes, one or the other. But it's a practice that I'm always doing because I want to maintain my faith in humanity with
Right.
everything that's going on, which is not always easy, right? In the world. And we always look at like there's always good people, and a lot of stuff is happening that is not so positive,
Yeah.
you know?
No, that makes
So I
sense.
want to maintain that inner equanimity no matter what's going around me. And by the way, I pulled a card right before this from Tosha Silver. I don't know if you know her, but she's really lovely. It's called the Sanctuary card.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wanted to read it because I just thought it was so lovely. A sanctuary resides inside you, no matter what is happening. This inner temple beckons you to enter. Take a deep breath, enter, and sit down on the throne of your own heart. Oh,
Wow.
that was so poetic and beautiful,
Yes, absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And and I think that's really part of the essence of imposter syndrome is really taking our own measure
Mhm.
and creating that marvelous me file, but not in a way like when people say wonderful things about you, put it in that file, but also put it in your mental file. And it's not necessarily that we're getting all our accolades from the outside, but we really want to internalize that. But
Yep.
one way to internalize it is to start to really repeat those things to ourselves and
Abs
say, recognize what's really wonderful about you that isn't the same as everybody else.
Right. Right. And I think it's people dedicating a little bit of time for their affirmation or whatever it is that's
For
gonna
you. Yeah,
yeah.
whatever it is for you.
Or yep, that it's gonna help them build that confidence, you
And
know?
do those daily practices and then do the physical daily
Yep.
practices too, whether it's doing a video a day,
Yep.
even you don't have to post it anywhere,
Yep.
but start to do it
Yeah.
and start to accept those opportunities that are coming to you, even if you are so scared, you are shaking in your boots. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Well, how do people connect with you? Do you have anything special for our viewers?
I do. So prsecrets.com is my website, like public relations secrets.com. And then we have the 100-word email that can get the media to call you.
Mhm.
And I think it's /100. I know we sent let's
Yeah,
just,
I will drop it in the comments. I have it.
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And there's plenty of other free things on my website. There are videos, there are special reports, there are lots of things that you can get, whatever your mode is. If you want to read, if you want
Mhm.
to get special reports, they're all there on prsecrets.com. And if you would like to engage with me further, I have a free 15-minute consult, and I'd love to speak with you.
Okay, and that was the other thing I was gonna ask is if they had any questions, if they wanted to go in the PR direction and just, use you as a kinda sounding board and find some PR companies, but also,
Yes,
find out.
absolutely. And you can DM me on LinkedIn. So connect me on LinkedIn. I see Joe says Ziggy Marley. It was actually Kaimani who wrote a book.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
and I hadn't heard of him at the time either, but he
Yeah.
said, filled stadiums, 20,000 people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow,
so
incredible.
quite something. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, connect with me or DM me on LinkedIn if that's the easiest thing for you.
Awesome. Any last minute thoughts or words to share? Anything?
Yeah, I think my last minute thought is one thing that we do in Aikido and that you can practice every single day. It's to expand your energy. And we do this before we get on the mat. And this is something that you can do behind the scenes at any time, but it's imagine above, below, side to side, back, front to back, that you're expanding your energy out. So before you enter a room, before you step on a stage, before you do a sales call, you
Mhm.
center yourself and ground and then expand your energy in all of those directions. That's one of the things that helps develop command presence. But
That
it does take practice to start to feel that and then to be able to do it on command.
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Susan, thank you so much for
You're
joining
very
me
welcome.
today.
Thank you
This
for
was a
inviting me.
delight.
It
Yes,
went by so fast.
it
Yeah.
did, it did. I'm sure that we could probably sit here and talk forever.
I think so. I think so.
Well, thank you for joining me. If people have any more questions, they'll drop them in the comments on the different platforms. I'll make sure I go back and
Great.
tag you so that you can
Oh,
see
thank you.
those.
I'd appreciate that.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thank you for this. So lively. And I love to meet all your new people. And thank you so much, Kat.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you. Thank you for joining my Stand Out and Grow Live podcast. Please join me again next Monday. And again, we have these live at 2 p.m. Central Time. So don't miss out. And if you have any questions or you're just catching the end of this podcast, just hit rewind, catch it from the very beginning, and you're going to learn about imposter syndrome, which with my lovely guest, Susan, had a great presentation in regards to it, and you will learn a lot. And she is a media coach and marketing strategist. So please reach out to her. Thank you again. And as I always end this, you got this.